Hello everyone, welcome to the March 3rd, 4 a.m., I guess Mountain, 3 a.m. Pacific, 6 a.m. Eastern, DraftKings, Pinnacle, DFS slate, breakdown, talk, words. We got them. We have a couple new teams compared to the past couple of days. We have a few old teams. I believe we are now in the quarterfinals of Pinnacle Winter Series 3 regionals. Let's see. I mean, I guess we're still technically in groups. However, Astralis Talent and Young Ninjas have already won theirs. They got the 3-0 record in this group Swiss stage. So we're now competing for third through fifth, which is going to be 3 winning teams, and then the losing 3 teams are going to be in the third or in the 6th to 8th, and then I think the lowest team remaining is going to be in the 9th to 11th. Oh no, there's 3 of those spots as well, so we're going to have there's still a lot to play for, I guess, is kind of what I'm getting at. A very roundabout way of doing it. So we do have a few new teams to add into the fold here. Sorry, I'm not sure why I'm having such a trouble finding the Pinnacle Winter Series. Here we go. So we recognize the last 4 teams here. We've been playing with these guys. It is the alternate attacks against EC Bruges, and then eSuba versus ECL. I think these are going to be pretty close, but we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about these other teams that are kind of new to us. We have Ungentium versus Kova, and then One Shot and Into the Breach. Again, looking at overall slate odds to get a grasp of how we're looking on this slate. The biggest favorite is a -190, so there's going to be a lot of flexibility, a lot of openings here in terms of places we can go. There's not going to be a lot of big chalk, so we can kind of just pick out the spots we like. We don't have to worry too much about it. As far as yesterday goes, I think I actually did end up about doubling up. I did decent in some spots, and I min cashed a few spots. I think I entered 57 and got back like 110 or something, so not quite a double up, but almost. And it was somewhat fortunate. I'd say there was some luck that went our way. I think overall our read on the series weren't too bad. Again, it was a lot of close ones. They actually all went 3, which was a little crazy. I feel like that's a pretty unlikely thing to happen most of the time. We have 4 game series and they all went to a 3 game series. Looking at kind of recapping the players that I liked and stuff. I was obviously pretty heavy on Sixer and Daitor. Had I just listened to myself and said only one-offing Sixer or only one-offing Daitor, probably wouldn't have been in a pretty good position. My lineup, I had a Sixer captain, but unfortunately I did end up getting to Devo Duvek. What had happened is I made my initial lineup, and then I made a tweet about the games, and then a fan, I don't want to say fan, that seems a little arrogant, but a viewer of the videos, 1994, I believe, told me to make a video, so I speedran a little video, and I don't know why, but I just kind of forgot to update my lineups. I just made like an initial entry lineup so I can get into the contests before they fill up, which I guess is a huge problem in esports for some reason on DraftKings. And then I just like never updated it, so I probably would not have ended up playing Devo Duvek. I probably would have just listened to myself and only had like a 6 or 1 off. But I think overall the view on this one was pretty spot on. We were on Sixer, we were on Daitor. Devo Duvek unfortunately was in my lineup. He didn't do well, but it is what it is. Capson did really well, a really high scoring player compared to the rest of the slate. But I probably would have never been there. His numbers were not looking great, that's for sure. We have Sampi versus EC Bruges. I actually feel like I had a pretty good read on this one overall. Again, unfortunately, we had Gringo. He just underperformed really. He had a really bad day. Fortunately, however, we did get to Richie, and he was, I believe, like one of the top 3 scoring players on the whole slate. And I believe I was the only person that played him in the $27. It was $27 single entry, 10 player field. So not that many people, obviously. I do like those smaller field single entry stuff. It feels like there's a little bit more navigation to be had there. And yeah, I was the only one with Richie at all. So we had a top 3 scorer on the slate in our lineup, the only one there. Again, Gringo hurt us pretty bad. So we had Devo Duvek and Gringo both being really negative. If we just avoided one of those bombs, we probably would have had a really good day. But unfortunately, I wasn't there in the right position. I don't think there was ever really a scenario where I got off Richie and Gringo. Honestly, I probably would have just had those 2 in my lineup no matter what. But I do think a lot of the merit was still there with Sampy. They probably would have been fine on most of your guys' lineups. If you went Xerus and Twist, you would have been fine. Questone -6 is a little tough. I think he was like 7,200 or something, so that would have hurt a little bit. But again, I think we were on the, I guess, correct side a little bit here, going with Richie. Just sucks Gringo had a poor day. Young Ninjas Isuba. This was, I can't remember if they were the biggest favorites. Yeah, I think this was the -270 team or whatever. They were the very large favorites. They had a close first map win, got blown out map 2, then blew out Isuba map 3. So pretty interesting line of results there. Again, they had a sub. They bring in BQ in for, who else do they typically have playing? ZTR was the one who sat out yesterday. I'm not sure why they're having a rotating carousel of players. Again, I don't think they're on the tomorrow slate. Yeah, the Young Ninjas aren't here, so I don't know why I'm necessarily talking about it. But we were on Linus. I liked Sapek, but again, he was pretty expensive to get to. And that's kind of where I drew the line. I said Rolf would have been okay at his price tag. He would have probably killed you if you played him. So that was a little on the poor side there. On the E-Super side, Blogus, their best player, he had a really good performance. He was still fine. I don't think I ever would have gotten there or recommended him. But he was still good regardless. So that's something to take a note of. And then the final series was Astralis Talent Alternate Attacks. Again, this was one I feel like I had a pretty good read on. I thought it would be pretty close. I was kind of torn between the 2 teams. I did end up leaning on the Astralis Talent side. All I had in this game was a one-off of Berser there. And that was arguably a really good move. Again, I think Mr. was super cheap. He was probably like in the 5Ks, or maybe he was like 6,200 or something. So he was super cheap. I think he would have been fine with that score. Berser plus 11 at, I don't know, he was pretty cheap, like 78 or something. So pretty happy with getting Berser one off there. Don't think I ever would have gotten to Vigo. People keep playing Fesser for some reason. He was super expensive and super high owned. So him having a bad performance really helped us out. And then Ozic was the like one-off underdog shot you could have taken there. He probably would have been fine. I just didn't get there. I just lent on the Astralis Talent side with Berser. So I think overall we're having some decent reads and leans so far into this tournament at least. And then we have a couple of new teams coming into the fold, which I'm kind of excited for. So it would have been boring if we had the same 8 teams again. So we can talk about this one. Initial glance, not great. Again, still not in the highest levels here with these players. Let's see. Who have they been playing with in winter in this Pinnacles tournament? Let's just get that. So it's been Greek or Grek, get Jekka, Fadet, FPS, and Cynics. Let's see if that's, yeah, I mean that's their main roster. For Pinnacle Winter Series, Smuya has been like in and out of this team, so I'm not exactly sure. Is Smuya on the player pool? Tadpole, Dobo, Adams. Yeah, Smuya is there. That could make things interesting. Let's look at what is it? Okay. So let's look at these Into the Breach games, because Smooya is going to be a pretty big piece in this to see if he's playing or not. So this was March 2nd. They didn't play with him. Smooya did play with them on the 1st, I believe this was. And on the 28th, they had Smooya back. So it's looking like the first 2 games that they played with Smooya, and then in this third one they brought in Isk. I would have to imagine that was more of a like sub-in situation. I don't know. I doubt Smooya is an official player on this team, but playing a few games with them definitely is something to note. I wonder if they were just trialing Smooya. It would be such a surprise if they like trialed Smooya and then felt better with Isk. Smooya is definitely a much better player. I mean, he was performing decently in the like in the top tier 1 levels of CS. Like you guys could see, he was playing with Fnatic. I thought he was actually starting to do really well when he ended up getting dropped off of the team. So I'm interested to see if he's going to be playing or not. I'm trying to look this up. I will be like transparent. Like I didn't look into this too much before getting started here. I typically do like most of my research here like live. So like I'm just kind of, all I do kind of is just record kind of what my day-to-day typical like levels of research is doing. Man, this is weird. I wonder what the so they do predict Smooya would be back. I wonder why they played with Isk the one day. That's a little weird. I just don't understand why that would be happening. Don't see much from their Twitters on why this is happening. I don't know. This is one. Let's see. This is an early game. Obviously, it's at 4 a.m. Very unlikely you or anyone will be up at 4 a.m. ready for roster lock. If you can be, I know, very, very small if there. Checking this lineup and seeing who's playing is definitely going to be really important. Let's look at their stats. Overall, looks like Isk, Dabo, and Cypher. That's a pretty condensed, solid kill share of those players. Looks like Isk isn't even in the player pool. Dabo and Cypher. Dabo's super cheap. Cypher super expensive. I don't know. That's weird. This is definitely gonna be like a defining spot on the slate. Kind of what you do here with this Into the Breach team. Let's see. They are the underdog, so that is a little weird. Looks like over on the one-shot side, we know that they have a consistent roster. We've seen them playing. Overall, looks like they just had Jekka had to get substituted for one series. It looks like he just missed 3 maps. So they're looking pretty solid. 18-10. That's a lot of games so far in the past month. I do like to see that. They're playing against some decent competition here as well. So I'm liking what I've seen. I like what I see from here from Into the Breach. From One Shot. Looks like FPS, Jekka. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty expensive. Jekka is definitely a decent value here at 78. FPS at 94 is a little tough to get to, but I still think he is a good shot here. I'm just interested to see what's going to happen with Into the Breach, what's going to happen with Smooya, because I'd imagine people are just going to jam in Smooya. It does make sense. He's definitely a much better player than everyone else here. He definitely sticks out like a sore thumb in that aspect. Let's look at his matches. So when he played with Into the Breach, he had an okay series here. I guess that's a pretty solid like +10. And then he had a really good +16 series here versus Kova. I don't know. I don't know. This one's tough because if Smooya's playing, I think just going on the Into the Breach side does make sense. I think what did I just look at for these players? I think going like Dabo Smooya definitely makes sense. Um, they're super cheap. You can get in probably like anyone else that you want to. That definitely makes sense. But then again, they are the underdog, and it doesn't seem guaranteed why, um, like why Is could be playing now. Man, that's just kind of my concern there. This one is really weird in that aspect because if we just it means so much. Um, that's just kind of all it comes down to is we probably don't know why. Like one day they have Smooya on the 28th and the 1st, so 2 days in a row they have Smooya, and then the next day they just have Isk back. Maybe Smooya is like their actual player, but he was already busy or something, so he had to take the day off. So I'm not sure. We might have to look into that. I'll probably try to find more information on that and then tweet about it if I can see anything, because that definitely matters a lot. So I'll just leave it at this for now. If Into the Breach have Smooya, then I'm probably gonna take the shot there with them. I think if Smooya plays, one-offing him is gonna be pretty popular, I'd imagine, just because he's a known really high-level player going against much lower-level competition, and he's super cheap. 7,400 for him, definitely a steal. So if he's playing, I think either one-offing Smooya or pairing up Smooya with Dabo, a pretty solid and really, really cheap two-man, definitely makes sense as well. On the flip, I think if a lot of people are going to click on Smooya, then they might also do like click on Dabo. They're going to have that super cheap pair. So I think getting up to the players of one shot make a lot of sense. Again, this is similar to yesterday with the EC Bruges situation. One shot are the favorites. They are the biggest favorites on the slate. So typically that means they're going to be the chalk. However, it's not like they're really big favorites. And again, in the same vein, they're relatively expensive. They're kind of unknown players. So if people are just going to click on the names and see Smooya on this team, they're just going to click Smooya. They might pair him up with a teammate and just go all in on the team. Definitely a possibility as well. Maybe people just click on Smooya and call it done for that game. So I could see these one-shot players going under owned, FPS and Jekka. They seem to be pretty condensed in the kill shares. It seems like if this team does well, it's going to be through these two players. Something I want to improve on from yesterday's and from the past couple videos is I didn't talk about captaincy, I don't think, enough. For captaincy, I think what you want in your captain is just the best overall value or the best overall play. Because I think if you have a really solid value captain, that opens up a lot more salary overall. There are some different circumstances, so I'll try to touch on that stuff. But I think typically for at least these slates and how it's building, I think you just want to get the best overall value. That way you can jam in as many like decent players as you can around them. So looking at captains, I think definitely Smooya, if he's playing in, that kind of stuff, I think Smooya is definitely going to be a really solid captain play. If he's not playing, I think you could go to the one-shot side. You could get a Jekka captain, probably pair him up with an FPS. Just hope the team does well. I probably wouldn't get to an FPS captain, 9,400. He just seems overpriced, but again, this is going to sound like a weird take, but pricing is kind of a myth in CSGO. Like, it just all it is just a restriction of who you can play. I mean, based on these stats, it's not like FPS is like dominating Jekka. Like, they're both relatively close. It's definitely within the realm of possibility where Jekka outperforms FPS. Like, let's see, if you were to do FPS captain and Jekka, that leaves you with 28-1. If you were to do Jekka and FPS, it leaves you 28.9. So it's an $800 difference between the two captains. And I think they're like relatively similar. So I think just getting the best value in your captain spot is probably the way to go at the moment, for these slates at least. Unless there's like a super standout player, you could argue Smuya is that super standout player. But an example of that would be Sixer from Ambush on these other games. Like his numbers are just astronomically better than everybody else's. So that's the kind of like caveat there, is like he not only was he cheap, he was the best value, but he was also like an astronomically statistical anomaly, like just an absolute crazy madman, really good numbers. Um, so I think he was like a really solid captain option overall anyway. So that's what I'm aiming at there. Yeah, I think that's going to be kind of it for that one. We do have 4 games to get through, and I'm already going pretty slowly. So the other early game is Ugentium versus Kova. I do recognize a lot of these players, and a lot of these names in this one, so this one should be a relatively good matchup. Looks like we have solid roster for Kova. We have a pretty solid roster here with Ugentium. A couple of substitution things, but that's really unlikely. Sorry, it's looking like so. This is a pretty weird anomaly I'm noticing just right off the bat. Here with Kova, they're 8-5, so they have a positive win-loss ratio, but they have a negative kill-death ratio. Then over on the Ugentium side, they have a negative win-loss, so they're losing more often, and they have a positive kill-death ratio. This is definitely a thing that happens. It's kind of hard to explain why and how this is happening, but this definitely matters. I'd say typically it doesn't really matter like who you think is going to win. Like if this series is close and it is priced at Kova slight favorite, Ugentium even money, and if it goes over to like 2.5, it goes to the third map, then all it does is come down to kill death ratio. Again, at the end of the day, all that matters is when we're making our DraftKings lineups in CSGO is our individual player statistics, how many kills, assists, and bonuses they get versus how many deaths they get. Obviously, being on the winning team helps you get those numbers. No arguing that. But at the end of the day, if this team is winning but still having bad numbers, and if this team is losing and still having decent numbers, that lends itself to believe that if it's a close game, you probably want to be on the Ugentium side because their numbers are better statistically. And there's also the outcome of if Ugentium do well and they get like a surprise sweep or something, then their numbers are going to do really well. So it just feels like 2 of the 3 outcomes lend itself towards the Ugentium side. That doesn't necessarily make it more. That doesn't necessarily mean it happens more often. Like not all 3 outcomes are made the same. You could argue that Kova win more often than not. They definitely are the favorite, so that's definitely how it looks. But again, I think if it's close, you probably want to be on Ugentium. I believe they're the cheaper side. We'll have to look at individual stats here, but yeah. So we have Gruby, Matty, Prism. Man, this is pretty gross kill share. They're all pretty even. Gruby stands out a little. Matty stands out a little as like a second option. Matty's 7,400, so decent there. Then over on the Kova side, again, that's very similar numbers. It's all pretty condensed. So these are like borderline the same team here. That's kind of crazy. So we have Spargo a little bit above everyone else. He's 92. Twixie looks a little okay, 68. So that's pretty gross, honestly, from the number standpoint. Let's look at how they're playing. Couple Finnish teams. Lost versus Sampi. Lost versus Into the Breach. They beat Nexus. Let's see here with Ugentium. Lost to Young Ninjas. It's fine. These aren't the greatest match history here either. It definitely looks much better for the Kova side. But I think overall, if you're looking at kind of how you want to approach this one seems pretty slimy on both sides. Again, they both look super condensed kill share wise. Nothing really standing out for anyone. I don't know why I closed this and just to reopen it again. But I guess maybe you could argue that the probably like the value a little bit is on the Ungentium side for the reasons I mentioned earlier. But it's just tough. I don't really want to get to Spargo or Groovy at over 9K. I don't really love much from the secondary players because it's all so condensed. Like the difference between the second and fifth best player is like less than 0.1. Same to be said for here. That's a 0.7 difference. This is a 0.9 difference, or 0.09, 0.07. So super close between all these players after the top one. This is probably just like a fade. Maybe you could argue you could get a decent one-off here. Matti seems to be like an okay second option. For the other side on Kova, I guess Twixie down at 68. He seems to be like a somewhat appealing second option, but not a lot there. What we could do is my last like test here is I look at how the players and teams perform in victories, because it's a little, sometimes the numbers can get a little skewed from defeats because you're not really playing these guys hoping they lose. So looks like Spargo and Twixie did pretty well in this 2-0 against Nexus. In this one against Havu, only Spargo did decent. They overall their team was negative in kill death. That's pretty interesting. Wait, were they? How did they go plus 13? I don't know. Whatever. I guess it was really close either way, but Spargo was the only one there. Then in this one, it was Arax, Spargo. Yeah, I mean, just not a lot there. I think really on either side. We could try the same thing here with Ungentium. Maybe we get a little bit different results. Let's see here. Prism, Matty, Sydney. Looks like Grubby didn't even do well. Exis, Sydney, Matty. Grubby didn't even do well again. And then this one, Grubby went crazy. An 84 and 52 performance. That's a really insane number. That probably that single match probably skews his statistics a good bit. So looks like Matty did perform well again. Matty and Sydney, Matty and Prism. So I guess the only thing there I could say for that one is Matty seems to be doing fairly decent. He's 7,400. I think you're probably not crazy to just go ahead and fade this one. Again, it looks pretty gross from all angles. At most, from me personally, I do think you can get to somebody like Spargo and pair him up with like Twixie and just hope Kova get the 2-0 and it's a little bit different. Definitely a real possibility. But probably for me at the moment, at most, I'd probably just one-off Matty and call it a day. But again, I do think pairing up like Spargo and Twixie and hoping they do well is definitely a viable option. I don't know how well they'd rate out in like the optimizers and stuff, because I feel like I'm just kind of playing against them at the moment. But you could do like Matty and Gruby, probably a pretty unique combo. I'd imagine everyone's probably going to be light on this series, and I think for good reason. So well, that's probably what I'm going to say for that one. Heading over to the teams that we know, so we can kind of talk a little bit quickly about this one. This one is a little interesting. I'm going to be interested in looking at the pricing for this, because both of these teams, as we know, have been playing. They've been on our slates before, so we do know a little bit about them. Check the odds. Alternate attacks minus 170. Again, not a large favorite, but a fairly sizable one compared to kind of how the slate's looking. Oh, sorry, wrong teams there. So we have Ozek at 98, and then on the Bruges side we have Richie at 82. Gringo's all the way down to 64. Let's look at the players again. So Richie doing well. Gringo's bad performance brings him down pretty heavily there. So his numbers aren't looking good. Sorry, I had to readjust. My ankles bother me a little. Mave 8K. It's a little pricey. It's pretty tough to get to this one as well. I'm going to quote my favorite podcast here, the Dogger Pass podcast. I'm going to say this is probably like a Dogger Pass situation. Ozek being 9.8 is just such a tough number to get to. He does have really good numbers. I wonder if that's who people are going to like spend up for, if that's going to be the target. Definitely makes sense. His numbers are really good. 1.41 is really, really good numbers. Probably number one on the slate, I'd imagine. They are a sizable favorite, but I might just let it roll and kind of keep it going with the Bruges side. Bruges were the favorite yesterday, and they barely got it done. I'd expect maybe a little bit of a bounce back here from Gringo. He was actually doing pretty well before this one poor series. Before this one poor series yesterday. So, yeah, he was. I guess he only had one good series, so I can't really even say that. These are some like nice numbered games. It looks like when he does well, he does really well. He seems extremely volatile. That's kind of what I'm gathering. A -10, +13, +7, -9. He's extremely volatile. That's kind of just what I'm looking at. I mean, he's pretty cheap. 64, Richie 82. That's an affordable combo. I might just go back to it again. I don't know how many people are gonna get to the alternate tech side. I do think they make sense. Maeve seems it's a little pricey for like a secondary option, I think, but he's definitely fine. If you want to get to Ozek, I think that's fine. He looks like the best player on the slate, but he's also super, super expensive and limits you pretty heavily. So, I think when you put it in context of he's only $400 more than FPS, we're not really loving Spargo, Gurubi. We haven't talked about Blogus, but like when you compare him to everybody else up top, he definitely seems like the best option. So I guess if you have the money, I think it makes sense to go to alternate techs, get Ozek, maybe get Mave. But I think I'm just gonna kind of let it roll, keep it going with the Bruges side. I'm gonna go back to Gringo. He seems super volatile, so if we can get a good day out of him where he does well in 2 maps as opposed to just doing well in 1, which is apparently the thing here. So if we can get a similar performance as he had against Young Ninjas against alternate attacks, then we'd be chilling. So again, a little torn. I feel like I'm gonna be like that way on pretty much all these games. They're all super closely priced. There's still a lot to be learned about with the like one shot and into the breach team. So that's just kind of where I'm at. A lot of the slate is kind of still up in the air, it feels like. But I think for this one, just, gonna let it roll with the Bruges side. Take the underdog there. Not loving it, but I think they did prove to me a little bit yesterday. I think Richie looked really, really good individually. I kind of skipped over captains in this one. Ungentium, Kova, probably no captains at all. Like I just don't like this slate that much, or this game that much for this slate. Again, at most, probably just one-offing Matty. That's probably what my thinking is for that one. I think Captain Richie makes sense. He's the best player. That if they win, he's gonna do really well. He seems to garner a lot of points. He seems to be doing pretty well individually. So I like going Richie. Maybe him pairing up with Gringo. I think captaining Gringo is super risky, super volatile, but probably pretty unique, and he's pretty cheap. So if you get Captain Gringo, you can probably afford a lot of other players. So that's gonna be if they're it's going to be tough to get any captains on the alternate attack side because I wouldn't really want to go down to like Sky or Freeze because then you're getting in like third, fourth option territory. That's a little dicey for me. I think you could argue Maeve is fine. Captaining Ozic is crazy. He's 14-7, I mean. That's pretty expensive. I don't know. I think he's fine. If you do have the money, I think he is the best player on the slate, but that's a pretty tough price to pay there. The final series is eSuba versus Dynamo Eklot. Battle of the Czech Republic teams, I believe, yep. So this one's going to be pretty interesting. We've again seen these teams in the past couple days. Sorry, this is the wrong lineup here. So Daitor has been playing for them. I think he's been playing pretty well. They've had a couple stand-up performances from everyone else. Then on the eSuba side, they've been up and down, but they've actually been like a little impressive to me. I definitely understand why they're the favorite. I definitely think they've been looking a little bit better. Definitely, if you look at their recent matches, that'll tell you a similar story. They barely got this win over Ambush, but Ambush I think was now looking great. I wasn't buying into this Ambush team that much at all. I do respect Nexus and Destrala's talent, so those are kind of decent results. Going 3 games every time is a little concerning. Seems like they have weaknesses in a lot of maps. That's kind of a concern. eSuba, again, it feels like their loss ratio is a little skewed still because they did play like Tricked and Savage, who are strong teams. So if we were to just like set these stats to just this tournament to have a comparable comparison, it's going to be a little bit of a different story, I think. They're both 5-4, 1.03 versus 1.05 kill death ratio. I don't know. It's just a little closer. Let's check pricing. So Detour's cheaper. eSuba is the favorite, so their numbers are expensive. It's really tough to pay 96 for Blogus. He does have good numbers. He's a fairly big favorite, but that's a tough price to pay. I would just prefer to, I don't know, when it comes down to a slate like this, I think overall my view is going to be like, it's a really close series, minus 150, plus 115, probably going 3. I mean, eventually we're going to have to get a sweep somewhere, right? But if it's probably going 3, both of these players have similar individual numbers. Blokus 128, Daitor 129. One of them is 96, one of them is 86. It's just like, why wouldn't I just go to the Eklot side? That's just kind of like the thing here. I mean, we're eventually going to have to get to like a favorite because, I don't know. I think One Shot at the moment is looking pretty nice for me. EC Bruges underdog, and Gentium Kova not liking really anything. So I think I'm probably just going to have to get to another underdog here, maybe with Eklot. I do think it is still fair to go to the eSuba side. We do have Pechin, who's been their second best player, who's down at 62. Savannah's at 68. Levi's probably too expensive. Dusty, you just never want to play with those numbers. Detour, Capson, and Fida. Fida, you're getting a good discount there. Detour is 86. I think Detour is, again, like a solid captain option. He's the best player. If they do well, he's going to do well. Similar story to Richie, pretty much. So, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Again, I think it's probably close 50-50 game. I'll just take the cheaper player who kind of does the same thing. So that's just kind of my thought process there. So now that we kind of have an idea of every game, we can look at the slate as a whole. I think my thoughts are kind of still the same about this Ingentium Kova team or series game match, whatever. At most, I think I'm probably going to one-off Matty. I think maybe if you do want to get a little bit creative, I think if you want to do something a little bit different, I think getting to like Spargo and Twixie, getting a probably unique combo there wouldn't be that bad. but I think I'm probably just going to leave this series alone, or maybe you get like a one-off Matt T. That's probably it. Into the Breach one shot again. Probably gonna have to like wait and see on this one. If you guys aren't gonna be available for lock, I mean it is at like 4 a.m. here, so at the only chance you have is if you're on the East Coast and wake up at 5:55 in the morning and check your lineups or something. I'd imagine we'd get word before the game on who's starting, but again, it's just a little risky, and I'd imagine most people won't be able to do that. If you do feel the Into the Breach side, I think they are a little cheap. I would probably just get a Dabo one-off. That's probably as much as I would do, unless you want to take the risk that Smooya is playing. If Smooya is confirmed to be playing, he's probably the best player on the slate, and he's super cheap. So that's one thing there. I don't know. I'll probably just take I need to spend my money somewhere, and I think one shot being a large favorite might get a little bit overlooked because of like a name like Smooya on the other side. I like FPS. I like Jekka. They're both a little pricey, but I think that's like fine. I think they do have like a little bit of sneaky upside and good leverage against Smooya players. Again, this one's weird because I don't want to overthink it. So it's like if Smooya's playing, he definitely should be like the number one option. But that also makes it so obvious where I'll just go to the like leverage spot with one shot. So I don't know. That one's still a little torn on that one. I might have to just wait and see. I'll try to find out some information on this, but I think either way, for now I'm just leaning one shot. I think it's easier to just kind of set it and forget it with Zika or Jekka and FPS. So that'll be it from that series for me. Yeah, I can move on. EC Bruges attacks. I just think alternate attacks are too expensive. I think this game's pretty close as well. And then I think Richie looked really solid yesterday. I was pretty impressed with him overall. I think Gringo again is super volatile, has the upside that I like. So I'll take the chance. That's kind of it. Gringo's definitely somebody who can like either make or kill your lineups pretty easily. So just be wary of that. If you have the money, and let's say if you went to Into the Breach and have the money because you went Dabo Smooya or something, I definitely think going alternate attacks would probably be the best move after that. Ozic and Maeve probably really solid options. Isuba, ECL. Again, this one's tough, but I feel like these are pretty similar teams, pretty similar games. Like they kind of seem like the same team on both sides. Blogus is super expensive. However, the two people who I think are all usable from Isuba are Savannah and Pechin. I don't know if you necessarily want to pair them together. It seems unlikely that they both do well. But I mean, I guess it's still definitely within the realm of possibilities. I'll just go with the cheaper side, who I think kind of does the same thing. I'll go with Detour, Fida, 64, Capson, 72. Feels a little overpriced. I feel like he's inflated a little because he had one good performance yesterday. But Nubik and Valencio seem to be giving their teammates a lot of kills. So, yeah, I'll probably side with the ECL side. Probably have to work a little bit on getting what exactly my build is going to be, but I think it's like a little apparent kind of the sides I'm taking. So I'll try to find out some information on Smooya and the Into the Breach lineup because that's definitely going to be a huge part of it. Yeah, like finding out whether or not the best player in the slate is going to be playing or not, or whether we're going to be kind of left out in the dark there is going to be pretty important. So I'll look into that. Keep your eyes peeled on my Twitter for anything I could find. If not, if I can't find anything and I'm silent, I'm probably just gonna take the one shot team, and stick with them because at least I know they're gonna be playing and they're the favorites and they have some decent kill shares there as well. So yeah, that's gonna be it for me today. Pretty interesting slate. I'm really liking these lower level games. I really like that they're super closely priced. There's not a lot of really big favorites. Those skew the slates pretty hard. But yeah, I'm excited for this one. Let's hopefully keep it rolling in this tournament, and yeah, that'll be it for me tonight. Don't know what the CSGO slates are going to be looking like going forward, but I'll try to make some videos on them if they're interesting. So yeah, best luck to you guys tonight.